This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this? Dun 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 dun.
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop.
Welcome to DBL. It's Wednesday, December 1st. I'm Jeff, in for Tori, and I'm here with my friends Erica and Al. Happy December, y'all.
Good to see you, yeah.
Isn't that kind of
Happy
crazy?
First. Yeah, year's over.
December already, I know.
Wow.
One more month. All right. Speaking of crazy, there was a deadly shooting in Michigan yesterday. 3 students are dead, and another 8 people were shot. The suspect, a 15-year-old sophomore, was taken into custody minutes after police arrived. Here's what the sheriff said about the weapon used in the attack.
Preliminary investigation revealed that the weapon used in the shooting was purchased on November 26th, 4 days ago, by the boy's father.
So look at this video posted on TikTok. It shows students barricaded in the classroom after they heard shots fired, and it's not entirely clear who was at the door, but some students believe it was the suspect. Let's take a look.
Sheriff's office. It's safe to come out.
Yeah, he said it's safe to come out.
Now, we're not willing to take that risk right now. I can't hear you. We're not taking that risk right now. Okay, well, come to the door and look at my bag, bro.
No. Yeah, bro.
He said bro.
He said bro. Red flag.
We needed a little moment to kind of take that in, right? Because that's the first time I'm seeing that video. Is this what schools are like now? Like, they almost seem prepared in some sort of way.
That's what really stuck out to me the most, too. Like, how, I know they weren't calm because, of course, everyone was very scared, but, like, how matter of fact, remember when we first started, when school shootings were a rarity and there was complete and total chaos? This is more like, oh, well, we did this, we practiced this, you know, the same way that we practiced the fire drill, the same way that we practiced for if a tornado came through. And they did the right things, you know, they lived to tell the story.
Yeah, that's what I remember. That's exactly what I thought of, doing a tornado drill in school in Chicago. You have to go in the hallway. It almost seemed like you hit the nail on the head for me, because that's what it seemed like. But except there was a shooter at the door and people were shot and killed.
But you know what, Erica, to your point, they didn't act like students. They acted like Navy SEALs would. They acted like people going through their protocol. They had a question and response with the person at the door. They didn't like the response. Somebody even giggled when he said, bro, like, this guy, we know it's him. Like, do you know how disaffected you have to be with a gun on the other side of the door where you can still muster the ability to find humor in something that's happening in real time? Do you understand how comfortable that this generation of children and ones previous and all the ones coming behind them are with violence at school, and how calm they are at school? When he said bro, there were certain people that said, okay, let's go. And other students were so calm, they said, nah, I don't think a police officer would say that. And then they went with an alternate plan that they already had, which was to leave out of the back. And this, Erica, I think it, unfortunately, is the legacy that will be left by our generation that didn't fight hard enough to do something about gun control, because other countries are not doing this in real time. And we are going to have a generation, no matter how you feel about guns, no matter what you text us or call us, we now have a couple generations now that are permanently and forever traumatized by just going to school every day. So if that's the society we want to live in, here we are.
Yeah.
You know, the way that you described it to me was like so profound, because I come from a community where it wasn't necessarily a rarity to have, like, to see a gun or to hear a gunshot or find out that someone was dead. And that made me different than when I was transported into this other community, because I was thinking differently about when someone walks in, how they're walking in. Like, my alerts go up a little faster than a lot of people who didn't grow up around that. And now we have this whole generation of people whose alerts, like that calm, just assess the situation. Where is it coming from? Where do I need to be? You know, when is where's my exit strategy? that's what these kids are doing because they have been it's been so ingrained. And this used to be people who came from, underprivileged neighborhoods. Now we're at a situation where you have like upper echelon schools, people who have a lot of means, and this is what's been allowed. Like we would say something about it when children were being not thought about in lower quartiles. Now we have situations where it's not even in the lower quartile anymore. Yeah. So now everything, the level playing field is there. Yeah,
I don't know if we've ever had it though. Growing up, there was no mass school shootings. No, there was never that. So I mean, I don't know about I don't know about what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm saying I came from a neighborhood originally where there was gun. Yes, there was gun activity.
To shoot up the school.
But it still was a neighborhood where there weren't resources in order to come in to change it. And now it turns out, as opposed to elevating that situation, we're just at a baseline now. Now everybody's even. So. Great, everybody's even.
Yeah, I don't know if it's shock for the children now or if it's their new normal, how they're reacting, but...
Jeff, I want to know, you have 2 boys that are about to go through 12 years of schooling, and this has to be, unfortunately, something that every parent thinks about. I mean, mine are at the not the tail end, the beginning of the end, starting high school. But Jeff, yours are just starting. Like, have you and Jordan had these conversations? Are you going to now?
It's almost like this is an honest answer, it's almost like you want to out of sight, out of mind. That's never going to happen to us. Except what I do for my work, we have to cover all these stories. And we don't cover all of them, by the way. Yeah. There are way more that we don't cover.
Absolutely.
And it's something that is in the forefront of my mind that I have to acknowledge at some point when they start going to school. And Lawson's signing up. We just dropped off his paper for kindergarten. And it is something I think of. And it's terrifying. But what is the protection? What is the answer?
I think, and I'm not a parent, but I think personal safety is something that you can start age appropriately teaching your children. I mean, I certainly do that with the kids that I work with, like based on where they are and what they're encountering. Personal safety is something that you just continue to expound on as you get older. And a lot of people have lived in bubbles and they have never had to think about that. That's why when I hear this certain noise or the elevation gets really high, I'm the first one out the door. I don't care if I look stupid. I will run out a door if I get this feeling.
That's your training kicking in.
So that's just, it just is what it is.
Exactly. All right, let's get this last story in, guys. Chris Cuomo is off the air at CNN, I should say. The news network suspended Chris indefinitely after the New York Attorney General released documents that showed how he helped his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, Anderson Cooper took over Chris's time slot. Here's what he said about it.
New documents released this week indicated that Chris was more intimately involved than previously known in helping his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, craft a defense amid a flurry of sexual misconduct allegations. Here's a statement released tonight from a CNN spokesperson. Quote, the New York Attorney General's office released transcripts and exhibits Monday that shed new light on Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's defense. The documents, which we were not privy to before their public release, raised serious questions.
So where do you guys stand on this? We have two stories that we could talk a lot about, but where do you guys stand on this Chris Cuomo story?
Whew, oh man.
Exactly, right?
See, I get why he did what he did. I mean, my brother's keeper, some people really abide by that. But you cannot mix your family business with your professional business, especially if you're to be a respected journalist. Like, if he wanted to be his brother's keeper, he needed to have stepped down and made a line in the sand.
Right.
All of that had to be very separate, and hope that he would have a path back when this all comes to a resolution. Yeah. But to conflate the two, how do you not know this isn't going to catch up with you?
I mean, I don't know if it should just be him that's out. I think, how does the producers, his boss, everybody at CNN that allowed his brother to not just come on maybe for Thanksgiving, like, hey, they're brothers, we'll talk about mom's recipe. He was on there regularly. How are you supposed to present a nonpartisan viewpoint? You have a Democratic governor on your television talking to your lead anchor at 9 o'clock every day. How could this not be a conflict of interest? This is super embarrassing, and don't let that legalese fool you about craft a defense. That's nonsense. That was to get dirt on the people that were accusing his brother of inappropriate behavior. So that's what he was doing. He was using his information to get dirt on the women that accused that said his brother inappropriately kissed him. So, I mean, this is embarrassing on a number of levels, but this was embarrassing 6 months ago when him and his brother were on television. How does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, there's something to be said about an opinionated talk show host, which is kind of what we are. I wouldn't consider ourselves journalists.
Right.
No, we're editorial,
Exactly.
and we give our opinions.
And I kind of feel like Chris Cuomo is the same thing, but people out there get confused because they think they're getting bipartisan information that's both sides could watch, and that's not the case anymore. How I feel when you get to the extreme news, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Right, but Chris Cuomo also is an attorney, and he also is a journalist. Like, he identifies himself as a journalist.
He does.
We may not, but he does.
I got a lot to say because as a family man, I might have done what he did, but as a journalist,
think a lot
which
of
I'm
people
not,
feel that way.
Coming up on DBL, despite life handing him major hurdles, this is what we should be talking about. He's the most positive person in the room. We'll introduce you to the rapper, motivational speaker, and viral sensation, Sparsh Shaw. But first, high-profile names in the Gillian Maxwell trial. We got some good stories today. We'll tell you all about it after the break.
Closed captioning provided by
Well, yeah, that's right.
And Don Lemon, they have just straight opinion shows.
But I think
they're completely editorial.
So we're.
I know he is a lawyer and has in the past held himself up as.
We're just talking about opinionated talk show versus like straight journalists. But I think the audience is confused when they think they're tuning into CNN or Fox News. I'll just say it. They think they're getting they're shooting them straight, and this is the way it is, and this is the way people talk, and it's not. It's influenced by political parties. Yes?
Absolutely. Of course, but I also don't believe that people are tuning in to CNN or Fox because they think they're getting a bipartisan, middle of the road opinion.
I think that's right.
That for local news.
Totally different throughout the day. Like in the morning and in the daytime, they try to have a more balanced newscast, and then in the evening they run their opinion shows.
The numbers, though. The evening shows,
yes.
the big number shows. That's right. But I think you guys are kind of both right now. I hate to hedge my bets because it sounds like you're not picking a side, but I think that people are watching either Don Lemon or Tucker Carlson, and they think that they're shooting it straight. They think that
that's what I'm saying.
They think that they are giving it to me, but this guy's kind of like, he's not going to lie to me, but we look at the world the same way. So I think that when people look at Don Lemon, they don't think that he's making up facts.
No, and I'm not saying that at all. But I feel very strongly about this issue because it's come up so many times, and I think that it needs to be, especially in the era of fake news and people just throwing that out there. People need to know who to trust based on where they need to go, what they need, things like information that is going to be presented without any bias in terms of, when I say bias, everyone freaks out. I'm just saying opinion or from our level of understanding, which is completely different than calling yourself a journalist. And if he calls himself a journalist, I think that needs to be checked too.
Right. Well, a journalist, I feel like
Welcome back. There was some shocking testimony in the sex trafficking trial of Gillian Maxwell. First, a woman who's going by the name of Jane, I don't blame her, testified that she met Jeffrey Epstein when she was 14 years old, and that Maxwell and Epstein sexually abused her shortly after that. She also said that Maxwell encouraged her to recruit other girls to perform quote-unquote sexual massages on Epstein. Maxwell has pled not guilty to the charges against her. Another person to testify was Epstein's longtime pilot. Now, this is where it gets interesting. He said that Maxwell was number 2 in the hierarchy of Epstein's operations. He also revealed some of the high-profile names he flew on Epstein's plane, including former President Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and Prince Andrew, to name a few. A few? Yes.
I don't know if we can put just a word in highlights, but yeah, just a few. There was there are major, not only just world and political figures, but entertainment figures and people that are currently at the top of our society that were on those flights. Bill Gates, if memory serves correctly, was on a number of those flights. And I just wonder, do you think that the reason that Ghislaine is still able to be here to testify, I'll just leave it at that, is because she doesn't know as much as Epstein did?
I think she. I mean, I think she knows.
Honestly, he died in the most ridiculous way ever. Like, he was the most. He was the most. Besides El Chapo, he was the most important prisoner that was on American soil, and he manages to kill himself in a non-suicide cell under.
And the cameras happened to be off at the time.
It was ridiculous.
I don't want to get into all that because that.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
But do you think that's why she's still here?
All I know is that the big fish always gets caught, and then the small fish gets to swim through the net. Once Epstein was gone, Ghislaine was next on the docket, and I don't know what type of deal with the devil or more deals with the devil that she made to make it to trial, but clearly something else is going on. And at the end of the day, we always talk about all of these, with R. Kelly and all of these different predators who people were accomplices for. And we're like, who are these people? Well, we got her. We know who she is. So let's see where the apples fall.
Here's my thing, and I'm not really a guy who jumps on conspiracy theory holes, but I'm all the way in on this one. If she knows what happened, because like I said, there was video cameras yesterday of every single room in Epstein's place in his New York mansion, let alone the island. Those hard drives are somewhere. That information is somewhere. If she has that information, again, I used this term yesterday, there are bigger fish to fry. She is not without fault. She molested these women, allegedly, I have to say that, but she is at fault. But if you could take down heads of countries, of other countries as well, for your testimony, I mean, Sammy the Bull Gravano killed 22 people. He's out because he turned over John Gotti.
Well, now
I don't mean this is a mafia thing, but I'm saying you could take down big organizations.
No, I get it.
One person's testimony.
But we're also talking about national security. So
you're right, but it's very fascinating. I wish this was a 4-hour show today.
Oh, man.
We'll be right back.
COVID-19 called Omicron. The variant was first identified in South Africa on November 24th, and just 2 days later, the World Health Organization designated Omicron a variant of concern. It's the 5th variant to receive this designation. According to the WHO, preliminary evidence suggests some of Omicron's mutations may be associated with higher transmissibility, but that's not yet confirmed. It's also not yet known whether the Omicron variant causes more severe infections and how effective the vaccines are against this variant of COVID-19.
The best protection against this new variant, or any of the variants out there, the ones we've been dealing with already, is getting fully vaccinated and getting a booster shot.
People are wondering if they should wait to get a booster shot that is proven effective against the new variant. So let's verify. Should you wait to get a booster shot that is proven effective against Omicron? Our sources are the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Sarah Lynn Mark, COVID-19 lead for the American Medical Women's Association, and Dr. Dan Fabui, emergency physician and former Obama administration public health appointee.
The right answer is to go ahead and get your booster. And for those who have not received the primary series of the vaccine, go ahead and get that now. You're not waiting for the Omicron variant.
According to Dr. Sarah Lynn Mark, not only does getting vaccinated or a booster shot now potentially protect against the Omicron variant, but it also protects against the Delta variant.
We can't wait to have Omicron on our shores. It's probably here before we start acting because we have Delta here right now.
According to the WHO, quote, "It is reasonable to assume that currently available vaccines offer some protection against severe disease and death," unquote. So we can verify, no, you should not wait to get a booster shot that is proven effective against Omicron. With your Verify, I'm Ariande Till.
Welcome back. Earlier, we sat down with Sparsh Shaw, a singing prodigy with a rare disorder who will definitely make you smile. That's today's DBL Spotlight.
I'ma be what I set out to be without a doubt, undoubtedly. And all those who look down on me, I'm tearing down your balconies.
My cover of Eminem's Not Afraid put me on the map and now has over 80 million views across all social media. I was born with an incurable disorder called osteogenesis imperfecta. which makes my bones extremely fragile. I've had more than 140 fractures and multiple surgeries, which have put 8 rods and 22 screws in my body. Nonetheless, I've been extremely blessed with a musical voice, a perceptive mind, and an unbreakable spirit, which has inspired millions of people all over the world. At just 13 years old, I gave a TED Talk.
Despite the fact that I did live a very rough life for the first few years, God opened a new door to it that would become my passion and change my life forever. And that was music.
I've done over 250 live performances in 9 countries in front of audiences of up to 50,000 people on stage. And my vision is to sparsh, which means touch, your heart, and leave such deep track prints in the sand of legacy that not even the tsunami of time can erase them.
We're so impressed by your zest for life. So we gotta ask, is it tough to stay determined despite not being able-bodied?
I would say no, it actually isn't. I'm determined regardless of the fact that I have a medical condition. I'm really thankful that God gave me this body, because I think being visibly different from the crowd, it taught me 2 really important universal lessons. First being, there is no normal. And second, why fit in when you were born to stand out?
Yeah, first of all, you're about to make Sam and myself cry.
I'm already teary-eyed.
All right, yeah, I know. But look, I already know this, but our audience needs to know that you could read, write, and sing at a very early age. Everybody that's ever met you has called you a prodigy, but how did you get into rapping? Break that down for us.
I started writing my own songs at age 10. I started writing rap songs soon after, and then finally, I really got introduced to mainstream rap through Eminem's Not Afraid at age 12. And when I heard the lyrics and I found out the story behind them, it really defied my expectations of what mainstream rap would be, and it inspired me so much that I was like, you know what, I have to make a cover of it.
You called that your big break when you did that cover of Eminem's song. What is at the heart of your own music, though?
I think when it came time to express my own feelings, nothing I really heard conveyed how I felt. I came to the realization, if I don't tell my story, who will? Wow. So I started writing my own songs, and now I've written over 70 of them, and for me, it's like a form of therapy, and ultimately, I want my story to kind of be a therapy for others who kind of feel similar ways and who don't know how to express their own stories yet.
Could you spit some lines for us today?
Please.
Oh yeah, I bet. Okay. Hey, I'm Sparse Shot, also called Pure Rhythm. Here to drop jaws with this lyrical algorithm. I hope you're having a daily blast live in the Mile High City while I tune in from New Jersey. I hope you enjoy this conversation with my pals and have a lot of laughs with Mr. Jackson Al. I hope you get to hear the truth and love from the ref, the big brother of the host, Mr. Schroeder Jeff. I hope you hear what matters and feel welcome with this fam. I know I am, thanks to Mom, Mrs. Shocker Sam. This interview's been awesome, but this is only the start. Soon we'll meet again and pick up from where we did part. Pure Rhythm.
Oh, man.
Oh my God!
Wow.
My man!
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
that was good.
I really
I don't know why your rep made us all cry.
I know.
Sparse.
Yeah,
you
that was-
need
I
to
mean-
come in studio. You've inspired so many, and we can't wait to see you continue to follow your passions. DBL Nation, you can stream Sparsha's music and follow his journey at sparshaw.com. Thank you so much, Sparsh. Thank you for
are
making
the
our day.
man,
Honestly,
brother.
thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. This is an amazing blessing.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Nearly a week since President Biden announced his plan to, quote, lower gas and oil prices for Americans by calling for the release of 50 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, a group of oil storage facilities located in Texas and Louisiana along the Gulf Coast. People on social media are wondering if Americans will actually see a drop in gas prices soon. So let's verify. Does the release of 50 million barrels of oil mean there will be a significant drop in gas prices? Our sources include the White House, Andy Lipow, president of Lipow Oil Associates, the U.S. Energy and Information Administration, Gas Buddy, and Ellen Edmonds, public relations manager for AAA. According to the Department of Energy, as of November 21st, there were 604.5 million barrels of oil in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The White House's plan is to release 50 million of those barrels in two parts. 32 million barrels will be exchanged or loaned to refiners. Those will need to be returned with interest, and 18 million will be sold. The idea is to increase the supply of oil, which would push gas prices down. But Andy Lippow, an energy industry consultant based out of Houston, says it's not that simple.
The biggest misconception is probably that it's going to have an immediate impact on lowering gasoline prices. When we look at the details of the exchange or the sale, it appears that this is going to occur over a several-month period, meaning that its impact to the market is going to be mitigated.
He says the oil being loaned to refiners won't be available until 2022, and the barrels being sold won't necessarily go to U.S. buyers.
The reason that the consumer will not see a significant decline is because the oil market remains tight. And while this has accelerated the supply of oil, it hasn't fixed the problem because most of that oil still needs to be paid back in the future.
According to the U.S. Energy and Information Agency, better indicators of retail gas prices are crude oil prices and the level of gasoline supply relative to gasoline demand. Since the oil released from the reserves isn't new production and there is no guarantee on who is getting the oil and when the reserves will be returned, it's not certain that prices will drop as a result of this increase in supply. According to AAA, if gas prices do lower, they aren't likely to do so until the end of 2022. So we can verify, no, the release of 50 million barrels of oil does not mean there will be a significant drop in gas prices. With your Verify, I'm Adiande Till.
Moderna is mobilizing hundreds of workers to start researching the Omicron variant of COVID. They say if needed, a reformulated version of their vaccine could be ready for rollout in early 2022. That's a quick turnaround because researchers are no longer working from scratch. This vaccine would just be a modified version of the one they already have, tweaked to combat Omicron's specific mutations. And it's still not a guarantee we need a special shot at all. Researchers are still trying to figure out how effective our current vaccine is against this new variant. They say it's highly likely the vaccine already offers at least some protection from Omicron.
What you eat could affect your memory and focus. It's time for some helpful tips presented by Health Market. So, cutting out these 5 foods can reduce your risk of dementia. First, added sugars. Too much can cause memory impairments. Next, fried foods. They're actually linked to lower scores in learning and memory. High GI foods like bread and pasta, you want to cut them out. And lastly, along with alcohol, nitrates such as bacon, sausage, salami, they can all alter gut bacteria in a way that causes bipolar disorder. Health Markets can help you find health coverage in minutes. Call 800-390-9633 or log on to healthmarkets.com.